Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI InterConnect. I'm your host, Laurent, and on this show, we explore how founders and operators are building real system, solving real problem, and navigating what's changing across AI, platform, and global markets. At AI InterConnect, the goal is simple: create a space where builders share what actually works, what doesn't work, and what's coming next. Today I'm joined by Kush Desai, founder at Sourcecode Lab, and Sourcecode Lab builds iGaming platform that help operators launch and scale online casinos and sportbooks. Kush, thanks for being here. Very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Laurent. I'm glad to be here, and maybe I'll be a good guest for your show. Maybe I'll be able to contribute something.
I'm sure about it. No problem. Of course, I we are we are in India, and you do have an office in Dubai,
Yep.
but you're in safe. You're safe. Everybody's safe
Yeah.
in India. Perfect. Let's start with your background, so listeners understand the path that led you here. You are operating between India and Dubai, as I said, and being close to both the technical and business side of platform building.
Yep.
Kush, how did your background and early experiences lead you to build Source Code Lab in a gaming place and space?
So before I sort of explain about how I started Sourcecode Lab, it's important that I explain to you how I got into entrepreneurship altogether, and that too in the gaming space. So I'll sort of take you back 7 years. This was when I was about to complete my undergrad in Boston, and people were applying for full-time jobs. They had all these, internships, etc., that were guaranteeing them jobs. And then there was me, who sort of knew right from the day he got into the college that I'm someone who wanted to start something of my own, and I wanted something that wasn't too structured. So startup is perfect, right? It's chaotic when you start. There's just too much to do, and you have to be everywhere all the time, all at once. So that was the sort of energy I was craving. So towards the end of my time at university, I sort of saw that the iGaming industry in India, in particular fantasy sports, was booming. Um, a couple of companies had already become unicorns, so it was a good time to get into the space. And me being someone who's played fantasy sports a lot since I think ninth grade, and me being someone who loves football, I thought about making a fantasy football. When I say football, I mean soccer, of course. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I decided that I'll build a fantasy football platform, the only one in India at that time. So that was the idea. So that's how I got into gaming. And then fast forward a few years, the sort of regulations changed for the worse, and I had to make a judgment call about pivoting the entire business. So that's how Source Code Lab was founded. We pivoted the entire business, and we were initially a B2C company, right? Because we were a fantasy sports operator, catering to about 3-4 million users in the country. And then all of a sudden we've had to pivot to a B2B business, wherein we're working on generating leads, we're working on making sales. So that was a completely different ball game. But I think it's happened for the better. It's a different challenge, and now we're working on growing this brand. So yeah.
I love it. Okay, then you started. You were a kid, and and everything is okay. Then I love it. What's interesting with Source Code Lab is that you're not just building software; you are enabling entire businesses to launch and operate. When
So
you're, is that right?
I'm sorry, just to sort of add something over there. The idea isn't to be, just software developers. Our aim is, I mean, like I mentioned, we want to be more sort of product based, which we have become in the past year or so. And our aim is to then sort of make this a recurring revenue business. So white label products are the ones that are the most common in the iGaming industry, because they give you recurring revenue. And currently what we're doing is to sort of get our sort of credibility in the market, to get our foot in the door. What we've done is we have been selling our entire products with complete source code access to the customers, and 99% of the businesses in the industry don't do that, because source codes are fairly expensive. So what we did is that we already had this product ready, so we just decided to sort of drop the price and make it more affordable for people, because we don't have any additional costs to building a product since it's already there. So that's how we are making our entrance into the market. And something disruptive that we're doing is we're doing two things. The white label that we're building, we are building a neural net layer on top of the white label platform. The reason behind that is that when people buy white labels, they are essentially buying them to test the waters. They are not experts at running their own online casinos or sportsbook. So the stat for a successful white label platform is along the lines of if a platform provider like myself gives away white label deployments, for every 10 deployments, only 2 or 3 would be white label deployments that would be working very well, that would be making millions of dollars, that would sort of get me that recurring revenue. Rest, up to 7 to 8 white label deployments just don't work out. At least 50% of them stop working within the first year. So the idea of having a neural net is that the low performing white label deployments learn from the better performing ones, and then they sort of suggest to their operators that these are the changes you should make to maybe your bonus structures, maybe to your incentives to the users, so that the engagement goes up. So the idea behind the neural net is to make sure that all deployments sort of feed off of the better performing deployments and then grow, which sort of benefits the people who are running the deployments and the platform providers who've sort of rented them out. So that's the neural network part. The second thing we're doing is that we're working on building iGaming industry specific AI agents and AI automations. So what I mean by that is the iGaming industry has 5 to 6 key stakeholders: platform providers like myself, game providers, license providers, payment solution providers, and operators. So now we want to have AI agents which we can upsell on top of our services to the larger sort of chunk of the iGaming industry. So we're also building AI agents and automations that can help these stakeholders out. So that's essentially what we're doing now.
Oh, love it. That's wonderful. That's unbelievable. Then, what what is your ideal client today? Early stage funders or more established operators? I mean, you mentioned it that only few of them are keeping up when you white label, but then I maybe established operators will be your
Yeah,
best
so
clients, of
yeah,
course.
exactly. So people who buy source code are also the ones who have some experience in the industry, right? Or
Yeah.
they are people who have deep enough pockets where they know for sure that they'll be spending a lot of money in the industry anyway, and they want to do it their way. So they might as well own the complete IP of the product that they'll be running. So we have two key sort of ideal customers. One is these sort of existing operators, so existing people who are either running their own platforms, and they realize that they maybe need their own platform at this stage now, because they've figured out the game and they want to own the platform so that they can customize it, they can have complete ownership over it. So those are one set of customers. And the other is, of course, people who like I mentioned, have big enough investment and they want to go all in right from the start. So those are the two ideal customers that we target.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what makes your approach different from the other white label or platform providers?
So, like I mentioned, 99% of our competition does not sell their online casinos or sports books with complete source code ownership. We do. So
Okay.
that's what sort of sets us apart.
Of course, that makes sense. Okay, building platform is regulated in a regulated industry is never straightforward. There is always complexity behind the scene. Um, right now, what feel like the hardest part of running and scaling Source Code Lab?
So I think the most difficult part would be that mm, finding my ideal customers. The Okay, let me rephrase. The most difficult part at this stage would be finding the relevant leads. That's the biggest challenge that we have, because we have a very sort of specific kind of customer that we can sell to, right? They either have to be operators or they have to be people with deep enough pockets. So to find them, we can do one of two things. All the license providers, so the Nevis license or the Anjuan license or the Curacao license, all the big license providers on their website have a directory of all the companies that they have provided licenses to. So that's one way for us to find the operators we want to reach out to. And the second approach is, us triangulating the interest areas of our ideal customers. So what are the interest areas of our potential ideal customers? One is they follow the big companies or the well-known companies in the industry. They follow the event pages, they attend these events, they are part of the groups on LinkedIn or Facebook which are sort of catering to the iGaming industry, things along these lines. So this is how you triangulate the sort of interest areas, and then you target them through LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads. And the third approach, which is the most expensive one and probably the best one, is going to events, meeting people face to face, and then sort of getting them on board as your customers. Of course, that won't happen overnight, because you need to invest in attending multiple events over the course of the year. And of course, it helps much more if you're able to invest in a booth. So you buy a booth and during the event, so that gives you more credibility, because then it shows the people that you have the capital to invest in this business, and you aren't in it to just sort of collect the money and run away from your potential customers. So what we've been doing is we've been balancing all these things out, but from the past couple of years we've been attending events and buying up booth spaces to sort of establish our credibility. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this insight. That's wonderful. And where do you feel most friction today? Of course, sales you mentioned, but could it be product or maybe operations?
So I think product would be a place where we face friction. But again, that sort of ties into sales, right? Because these are high ticket products. So the sales cycle is very long. People take a lot of time to make this decision, because this is a major investment. Once they spend the money on this, they are essentially, not in a bad way, but they're stuck with it, right? Because they've put in the money, so they might as well try to make it work. So people take a lot of time to consider whether or not they want to go ahead with not just us, but with anyone or any of our limited competitors who sell source code, because our customers realize that this is going to be a significant investment, so they want to be very sure about it. So that's a huge friction. So you have to be very patient, and you also have to put in a lot of effort to build a big enough pipeline to make sure that you don't run out of cash flows before you close the next deal. So that's the biggest challenge. You can't be in rapid scaling mode right from the get-go. You have to be sure that you have enough leads in the pipeline that would make it through the sales conversion process, and sort of will add to your cash flow. So you have to be very, very, very sort of careful when you plan these things out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And has anything changed recently that made growth more complex?
I
Maybe AI or
So AI has definitely helped us out. That was actually a point. Thank you. You brought it up. So AI has definitely helped us, smooth our internal operations. So we're using AI for the littlest of simplest of tasks. It's draft me a mail, draft me an ad copy. Just yesterday I recorded 10 video ads for LinkedIn, and 6 of those I shot by myself. The other 4 I sort of went to Hagen and 11 Labs, and then my AI avatar is on that already, so I used that to sort of create the other 4 5 ads, and the scripting, all of that is taken care of by the AI. So marketing front, it helps. On the operation or the sort of CRM front, what we've done is we've moved our CRM platform, simply because the current CRM platform that we're using has a lot more integration points for automation. So now what we're building is essentially a very detailed automation, wherein as soon as a lead comes up, it's distributed to the right salesperson, and then the next steps post the demo, etc., are all well defined. So we're integrating AI into our daily practices to make sure that things operate very smoothly, very seamlessly, and we aren't too bloated from a employee standpoint. And I think even our tech team, right? They've been using this tool called Cursor AI. It's a vibe coding tool, but Cursor is supposed to be one of the best tools when it comes to sort of for technical people. So developers use Cursor the most. People like me use tools like Emergent or Lovable because they are more tuned for people who aren't very technical. So Cursor is amazing for the tech team. They give it basic tasks that they don't want to waste time coding. So I think we're seeing a lot of people internally adopt AI into their daily practices, which is more important because then they'd be more open to trying out automations.
yeah, I love it. You also mentioned that during our pre-call that you recently spoke to a panel on
Oh
about
yeah,
AI and
in
in the
Malta.
iGaming industry,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
which is which is fascinating.
So this is so there's this amazing event organizer called Sigma in the iGaming industry. We've gone to, I think, the majority of the events that we've attended in the past 12 months. At least 60% of those have been Sigma events. So this was one of their major events in Malta last year. I think it was September, and they reached out to me asking if I'd like to be a part of the AI panel, and of course it was very interesting. So I immediately jumped on that opportunity, and it was about how AI and ethics and the use of AI in the iGaming industry, and we had a fascinating conversation about how AI can have positive and negative impacts on the iGaming industry. So talking to people in Europe is a completely different experience when it comes to AI and data, as opposed to talking to people in, let's say, India about AI and data, because Europe has the entire sort of GDPR guidelines, right? Wherein what data is made visible to people, or rather to companies and technology, is sort of very well defined. So there were a couple of lawyers as well on the panel, so it was a very holistic discussion, and I brought up 2 points essentially, which I believed were I thought are valuable insights. One is that regulation will always sort of chase innovation. You can't regulate something that doesn't exist. So instead of putting up an entire embargo on AI and its sort of influence on the iGaming industry, it's important that we have people, relevant people, who understand how AI operates, who sort of, are part of the decision making process about the do's and don'ts or the allowances of how AI can, sort of use data, extract data, etc. And that would be very beneficial for the iGaming industry, or and in general for the entire whichever industry people tend to use AI in. So that was one. And the second was that my point was that why do people use AI? People use AI to optimize things, right? They want to speed things up, they want more productivity, they want to achieve, maximizing their profits, etc. So ultimately, at the end of the day, AI is a tool for optimization. So we have to consciously decide as people that till which point are we open to, letting it optimize, because AI isn't good or bad. AI can't differentiate between good and bad. AI's sole purpose is to do more in a better manner. So that's where, I brought up the point that the responsible gambling policies have to be fine tuned with whichever AI is sort of integrated in, online casinos and sports books, so that AI itself sort of values and respects those guidelines and policies and ensures that, those are always addressed, always taken care of, and that no sort of, online casino or sports book is sort of tuned to exploit the users that are playing on those platforms, because that's when people would be, misusing AI, and we don't want that. We want AI to be something that benefits the business and takes care of the customer at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. Congratulations. It must have been a great panel
Yeah,
and
it was fun.
very, very insightful and educated. Um, you are in a space where that's evolving very fast. Technology, regulation, user expectation, everything is moving. And looking ahead, 12 to 18 months, what what does success realistically look like for Sourcecode Lab?
From a financial perspective, success would be us breaking into the 5 to 7.5 million ARR bracket. I think it's fairly conservative, but I think it's a good target to have, and that's financial success. I think the success I would consider would be, us successfully being one of the first companies, probably not the first and not the only, but one of the first iGaming companies that is able to build this, entire neural net layer, and is able to successfully build an AI native white label deployment, which is, a good business investment for people who want to try out white label solutions instead of the, source code ownership, because if they're trying it out, then it might as well be a good success story for them. So that would be one measure of success apart from the financial one. And the second one would be that, we are able to build and deploy these AI agents across the iGaming industry that we're targeting, across different stakeholders, and just sort of, make people more receptive towards the idea of letting AI be a part of their day-to-day practices and processes in business.
Yeah, I love it. What are you choosing not to do right now?
I think I lost you over there. Can you repeat?
Yeah, sorry. What are you choosing not to do right now?
What am I choosing not to do right now?
Yeah.
Uh, what am I choosing not to do?
You concentrate, you focus on specific things and avoiding other things, probably.
Uh, I am. I mean, so I think I get the gist of the question, and unfortunately, and it's something that I have to work on, but I do tend to get sort of distracted easily, not in the sense that I'm jumping from my laptop to my Instagram, not distracted in that way, but just distracted by the amount of tasks that are genuinely at hand. So I do need to sort of become more focused, because when you see a lot of tabs open on your browser, when you see a lot of things that need to be done, I just sort of jump from task to task to task, instead of focusing 100% on one task, completing it, and then moving to the next. So I definitely need to choose not to do all those things and choose
Yeah.
to focus on just one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. If you had fewer constraints, what will you accelerate?
If I had fewer constraints, in what sense?
More money,
Okay, okay.
more
If
time.
So if I had definitely if so we'll actually be starting our fundraising journey, but yeah, so definitely if we have more funds, then I'd like to accelerate the development and deployment of these the white label AI neural network that we want to build. And we'd also want to sort of invest in bigger booths at conferences, because the bigger the booth, the more attractive it is to people. So those are the two things we'd want to invest in.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely the bigger the booth, and it must be great this iGaming event.
Oh yeah.
it must
So
it,
there are companies that they literally spend tens of millions of euros on their booths, and these are
wow.
huge, massive booths. And
Where is the main event?
there are a bunch of events. If you look up companies like Sigma, so their website is sigma.world. The second one is Spice. It's run by this company called Eventus International. So if you want to check out Spice events, that's spiceseries.com. Then the third one is sbcevents.com. And one of the main ones is Ice Gaming. So ICE events happen just once a year. That's every January in Barcelona. Before Barcelona, they used to do it in London, but I think because of Brexit, they moved to Barcelona. So Sigma and ICE and SBC are like three of the biggest sort of event organizers. And the events happen, multiple events. I think at least 10-15 events happen every month,
Oh,
across
well,
different countries, across different continents. So yeah,
yeah, you cannot be there. You cannot be to all of them. That's for
nah,
sure.
you can't be.
Okay, but I help you on the one in Barcelona.
So yeah, so you oh yeah, you live in Barcelona,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, so
yeah.
you should definitely check out the ICE event. It happens every January, so you just missed this one, but
Oh, that's too bad. Okay,
yeah,
okay. Next
you'll be
one.
able to attend the next one.
Yeah, of course. Okay, cool. Then you have been in the trenches building platform and working with operators. That experience is valuable for a lot of people listening. Based on what you learned so far, what should founders or operators in similar industry start or stop doing?
What should founders or operators?
Yeah, your recommendation for founders working in a similar industry based on your
So I
experience,
think
or maybe what they shouldn't do.
So, and this is something I have to work on as well. But I think one thing that new founders in this industry need to understand is the importance of trust and credibility, and the patience that it actually takes, and just how obsessed you need to be about this industry. Because when you talk to someone about, from the iGaming industry, about anything, you'll realize how much that person or that individual genuinely knows about the industry, because people tend to use technical jargon. People are in the know about the latest developments, and since this is a highly regulated industry as well, to a large extent, People are also very well versed with, what are the latest developments on the regulation front. And this industry also is a lot about supporting each other. So yeah, I think just people skills is the biggest thing, believe it or not, in a technologically dominated industry. It's these people skills. It's, being patient and, being available and being present at events or places where people can see you. Those things help the most, because that's how you'll build your credibility. So it's taken us a year to even build some credibility in this space. Before this, we didn't used to go for events, so it was also a big mindset shift for us that we need to invest in our events. And the other mindset shift we had to make is that not every event would lead to a direct closure or a conversion. So it's a lot about patience. It's a lot about, investing in an event and then getting results maybe 10, 12 months down the line.
Okay. Yeah, patience. Then, what habit or system made the biggest difference for you?
Definitely these attending these events.
That, yeah, I mean, it's not a habit, but definitely it's
Yeah,
makes.
that's what sort of made the biggest impact for us. From a
Yeah,
habit perspective, I think I won't necessarily attribute it to a single habit, but just a change in strategy. This was the biggest thing that led to an impact for us.
yeah, yeah. I love it. Then, what advice will you give yourself or your younger self if you were starting again today?
My younger self, if I was starting today, hmm, I think recommend that. I'd recommend to my younger self to start off in the B2B space and not in the B2C space, because
Okay.
B2C is less about building a business. In the current day and age, B2C automatically sort of relates to, scaling rapidly, raising funds, valuations, and, exits. But B2B is more about building a genuine business. B2B is more about, the golden equation, which is, selling price minus cost price equals to profit. Uh, so it's about learning the importance of, doing sales. It's about learning the importance of, after sales service. It's about learning the importance of having cash flows, about, building a profitable business. And yes, B2C businesses are also about that, but currently people want to, build things in the B2C space simply because of, the amount of visibility, the amount of valuations it can give you. B2B businesses aren't always highly valued, but they are almost always fairly stable. Any well-run B2B business. So I'd say focus on B2B first. It's easier to learn. It's fairly stable once you sort of get over the uh, end of the cliff and get to the other side. So yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. This is very, very interesting. What you just mentioned, B2B first. That makes a lot of sense. And very, it's. I'm very excited because I didn't know this industry, um, and I want to learn more. This is great. Thank you so much, Kush.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for having me.
joining.
Thank you so much
It
for
was
having me.
great.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad we were able to do this. Yeah.
Definitely great, strong insight into your journey, your industry, and the work you're doing at Sourcecode Lab. I really appreciate your patience and taking the time, Kush. Thank you
Also,
so much.
before we end, just one more thing. At Source Code Lab, we've also sort of expanded. We, while iGaming remains the sort of primary thing that we do, we've also gotten into providing AI automation and agents and as services to customers. So what we do is we do an entire business audit wherein we understand their process, the tools, etc. that they use. Then we give our potential clients the detailed audit report along with what sort of automations can be implemented in their business and the financial benefits of that. So costs going down, employee headcount, if the organization's bloated, then maybe that restructuring, then their top line and bottom lines going up. And that's something we've started, and we're seeing good results in India.
I,
And
I love it.
just wanted to
Are you
pass
still
that
with me?
along.
Kush? Okay. Yeah, I
Did
just
you
love it. I mean,
did you get that?
I will.
There was
No,
a
I couldn't. Yeah, it's. I think there was a break here.
yeah
I heard most of your new activities of uh, giving audits to companies in order to build their new system based
yeah.
on agents, and that makes a lot of sense. It's very very interesting. Where can people find you
So
and
on
read about you? Yes.
So on Instagram, at Sourcecode Lab is the company. At Real Kush Desai is my handle. I post a video every day on AI on my handle, so you can find me on social media there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Same, LinkedIn.com / Real Kush Desai, and my profile would come up. So yeah, these two
One,
places.
Wonderful, wonderful. I just have. This is great. A great conversation. Thank you, Kush. Thank you so much. And we will do it again,
For
obviously,
sure, for
for
sure.
sure. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Laurent.
Thank you. And that's it for today's episode of AI Interconnect. If you enjoy it, share it with someone who's building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you. See you soon.